When investigators walked into Jonestown on November 19th, 1978, they weren't prepared for what they saw. More than 900 bodies lying in the Guyanese jungle, already bloating and decomposing in the tropical heat. It became immediately clear that this wasn't just a crime scene. It was a logistical nightmare unlike anything the US had ever dealt with. Guyanese authorities were overwhelmed. They didn't have the manpower, equipment, or facilities to handle hundreds of dead, and the smell was spreading for miles. They quickly contacted the United States and essentially said, "We can't do this. You have to take them." So the US launched Operation Joint Task Force. Guyana Air Force teams were flown in wearing full protective suits, stepping into a scene that many of them later called the most traumatic experience of their lives. They had to tag, bag, and move bodies that were already collapsing from decomposition. It was grueling, dangerous work surrounded by insects, heat, and chaos. Over several days, the bodies were lifted out of Jonestown by helicopter and then flown on massive C-141 transport planes to the United States. But they weren't sent home to families. In fact, almost none of the Jonestown victims were reclaimed. Instead, nearly all of the bodies were taken to Dover Air Force Base in Delaware, the main U.S. facility for processing mass casualties. Forensics teams identified as many victims as possible, though many were too decomposed to ever match to a family. So what happened next? Most of the Jonestown dead, over 400 of them, were buried together in a mass grave at Evergreen Cemetery in Oakland, California. Others were buried in small private plots, cremated, or held by funeral homes when no relatives stepped forward. In the end, Jonestown didn't just become one of the darkest moments in American history. It became one of the largest mass burials the country has ever carried out. And for many of the victims, their final resting place is not in the jungle where they died, but thousands of miles away in a quiet cemetery overlooking Oakland.